Today's prevailing deadly weapons are ballistic. And with each new deadly innovation, it becomes more challenging to stop them. The lab's high-speed replay reveals the secret of the vest's stopping power.
Here we have the distinctive cross pattern of the fiber actually engaging the bullet here. What's really fascinating, we can already see the bullet flattened out and the energy transfer take place.
Vests that are bulletproof, or as the pros prefer, bullet-resistant, use the principle of strength in numbers, numbers of strong individual threads, and numbers of layers. When a bullet strikes the vest, it tries to push the fibers apart, but the tough strands hold their positions, forcing the bullet to stretch them. Some of the fibers break under the strain, but they are backed up by many more that absorb the energy like a tightly woven net and stop the bullet.
Depending on the weave and the types of materials, what the armor actually does is catch the bullet in a successful stop. It's just like the catcher's mitt, catching a fastball.
A look at the target vest reveals that the .45 caliber bullet penetrated only 3 layers before being stopped by the net of tough fibers.
43, 46.
A police officer wearing the vest would be protected. Kevlar consisted of tough synthetic fibers in a super dense weave. Researchers had developed it in the early 1970s to strengthen tires. NIJ scientists decided to use it in some prototype vests.
And so, working with the military, we conducted a series of tests to see if they would stop pistol bullets. They did.
But any cop who's taken a bullet in his armor will tell you the impact is still a shock to the system. You might be surprised how much. A bullet is placed in a gun, ready to fire. Fast-burning gunpowder propels it down the barrel. The grooved rifling spins the bullet as it accelerates to supersonic speeds. Spinning makes it aerodynamically accurate. Its energy will be transferred to whatever it hits. If it hits flesh, it will drill through it like a propeller through water. But if it hits a bulletproof vest, the bullet will be stopped. Still, its energy will continue into the body behind it, causing blunt trauma.
Somehow you have to stop all the momentum of the round. For example, if you're designing a body armor and a bullet comes in and strikes you, all that momentum has to be transferred to you. Even if you stop the round, it's all transferred to you.
The National Institute of Justice, or NIJ, requires all vests to be tested. Not only for stopping power, but also for resistance to blunt trauma.
If it passes, it comes back to us and we issue the certification documents, which goes back to the manufacturer, and we put them in our database so we can attest that they have in fact passed.
In the testing lab, they use ballistic clay to measure the trauma from a bullet hit.
What you can see here is the different impact from 3 different rounds. What you're basically seeing, and the deeper it goes, usually there's more trauma. The maximum trauma allowed under the NIJ standard is 44 millimeters.
Blunt trauma is the reason why some people shot while wearing vests suffer bruises or cracked ribs. Curious to know what it feels like to be shot while wearing armor? Let's compare an incoming bullet to something more familiar, a baseball. Being hit by a .357 Magnum bullet while wearing soft armor is like being hit unprotected by a 95-mile-an-hour Major League fastball. For this reason, soft armor is often combined with hard armor inserts that eliminate blunt trauma. Beginning in the 1970s, vests included steel inserts, but they were extremely heavy. Scientists needed something lighter, and they found it in high-tech ceramics. Ceradyne, based in Southern California, uses advanced technical ceramics to make products that are the pinnacle of bulletproof materials. A large portion of the military's ceramic body armor is manufactured at this plant.
The idea of a ceramic stopping a projectile may be quite alien to the normal way of thinking. We all know that if we drop a plate, it breaks. but there are ways of putting a backing on the ceramic to keep those cracks from propagating.
Ceramics are very hard, and as long as they can be kept intact, they're able to completely defeat a round without any deformation or failure of the target.
Ceradyne produces an extremely dense ceramic made of boron carbide, one of the hardest synthetic substances known. Only diamonds are harder.
The process initially starts with a powder. That powder is then formed into a preform in a high-pressure press. We take the preform of the ceramic and then place it into an electrically heated induction furnace. The furnace is heated up in excess of 2,000 degrees centigrade. The ceramic is then cleaned. We use polymers to put the backing on. The polymers made out of Kevlar are then bonded with resin and then compressed onto the back face of the ceramic in order to ensure that once the projectile has hit the ceramic and broken, it doesn't go any further.
When a bullet hits ceramic armor, the armor begins to fracture. Each tiny fracture absorbs more energy. As the bullet's energy dissipates, the fractures spread wider and wider into a cone that presses against the Kevlar backing. As long as the bullet is pushing against the crushed ceramic, it can't penetrate it. The newest ceramic design is a flexible sheet of armored discs called Dragon Skin, made by Pinnacle Armor in California. The design is so top secret, this is as much as we're allowed to show you. Experts prepare to test it at the Aberdeen Testing Center.
This is the next evolution in armor technology to try to meet some of the more severe direct fire threats.
Yeah, you guys run down, take a couple of years.
As you can see here, this is representative of what would be the vest portion of the package, and this is the impact site of the shot we just executed, and obviously there's no residual debris, no signature of any defeat.
The specific results are classified, but Pinnacle Armor has acknowledged that Dragon Skin can stop some of the most powerful military assault rifle bullets.
It's a constant pendulum. You got the bullet makers versus the armor guys, and the armor guys generally always lag behind. But the tide is beginning to turn, and this is one solution that's demonstrated that.
Ceramic armor works so well to reduce blunt trauma, soldiers sometimes report being hit by bullets without even noticing. When police SWAT teams go into action, their most important piece of gear may be their armor. At a SWAT training range in northern Illinois known as The Site, 3 SWAT teams from Yorkville, Belvedere, and Freeport are prepping for joint high-risk training exercises.
All right, the layout is basically this is where the downstairs guys are going to go in.
Their vests are layered with Kevlar and ceramic plates for maximum protection.
What we're doing today is we're simulating a high-risk search warrant. You'll notice as the team is approaching, they'll approach at multiple points. As they make entry, you'll notice that the team's wearing their hard body armor. This is a type of environment that is perfect for hard body armor.
Please search warrant!
Training exercises like this have helped establish a welcome statistic. The National Institute of Justice estimates that more than 3,000 officers have been saved from direct hits because of bulletproof vests.
Heavy body armor is what gives us maximum amount of protection. And safety is always key with us. Everybody wants to go home at the end of the day. And having body armor gives you the comfort level to operate in an environment that's hazardous and dangerous. Could be potentially deadly.
In order to allow free movement, body armor only covers the vital organs. It may look like the officer's extremities are very vulnerable.
Let's set up this back room for an ambush.
But the SWAT team's next drill demonstrates that looks can be deceiving. Known as force-on-force training, it's an intense game of hide and seek, with bad guys lying in ambush, armed with paint-firing simunitions.
It's kind of a paintball gun on steroids.
The SWAT team's strategy is designed to maximize the protective capabilities of their armor.
When we come in a room, what we want to do, we either want to be moving left or we want to be moving right as we're identifying our target.
Police, get on the ground!
The quick movement is designed to confuse any armed suspect.
So that way it's kind of harder to the person to pick a target up on you. And the reason we wear the body armor is if they do pick up a target, this much of our body is a little safer than normal. Clear, coming out.
The goggle cam provides a bad guy's view of this rapid assault. Even when waiting in ambush, suspects have so little time to react that choosing targets is nearly impossible. So they shoot into the officer's center of mass, right into the vest.
What happened when the officer first walked in, and you could see he got shot in the chest. If this was a real-life incident, this officer would have been saved by the body armor and not suffered any kind of damage at all.
The tactical advantages of armor are so evident. As bulletproofing technology continues to advance, armor is becoming not only stronger and lighter, but more flexible. What if bulletproof armor could be made as flexible as liquid? In the line of duty, police officers and soldiers are called upon to take dramatic action. Functioning effectively in armor requires constant training and practice. Officers like Commander John Caduto must balance protection against mobility.
From a standing position, behind the cover, heavier Kevlar, which is what I'm wearing here, is pretty comfortable. It's not too bad. As we move to different positions, though, and we get into positions such as this rollover prone, staying behind cover with my rifle properly mounted on my shoulder gets a little bit more difficult. The bulkier you make the vest, the more limited your mobility is, the harder it is to get into certain tactical positions. The softer Kevlar is much easier, much thinner, much more pliable. You have much more mobility, but yet it doesn't afford you the protection like the heavier Kevlar does, so it's a trade-off.
He could choose to be completely armored, but then he'd lumber along like this bomb squad officer. A new type of armor may offer a solution. Meet the soldier of tomorrow. Technologically enhanced and armored from head to toe. At the center of this high-tech combat system is a bulletproof suit composed of liquid armor. It's now in development at MIT's Hatsopoulos Microfluids Lab, under the direction of Dr. Gareth McKinley.
So there's a lot of work going on in shear thickening fluids. That's fluids that spontaneously change their properties when you just hit them with a hammer or with a large impact.
Shear thickening fluid composed of polyethylene glycol and tiny nanoparticles has an unusual characteristic. When a bullet impacts the armor, the intense pressure squeezes the particles, which instantly form a stiff matrix. The stronger the force of the bullet, the harder the particles lock together. After the bullet's energy dissipates, the armor becomes soft and flexible again. The protective properties can even be increased by making the nanoparticles magnetic.
What we're working with is a class of fluids called magnetorheological fluids. These are liquids that change their properties when we apply a magnetic field to them. The liquid turns into something that more resembles a solid.